Assalamu alaikum. In today's lesson, we're going to explain the third type of essays that you might encounter in task 2 in the IELTS exam, which is advantages and disadvantages essay. This type is also divided into two smaller types, discussion and opinion. And I'm going to explain to you the difference between discussion and opinion in advantages and disadvantages essays and the previous two types that we studied over the last two videos, the main types, discussion and opinion. So let's watch and we'll understand everything. Okay, as I said, advantages and disadvantages essays have two types. Type 1, let's take this example. In some countries, young people are encouraged to work or travel for a year between finishing high school and starting university studies. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages for young people who decide to do this. So that's a discussion essay that belongs to advantages and disadvantages. You may ask me, okay, what's the difference between this discussion essay and the other discussion essay that we studied 2 lectures ago? I'll tell you. Well, the main difference is that in the other discussion essay, they ask you to mention your opinion, right? They ask you to mention your opinion. But here, your opinion is optional. You can decide to mention it or just ignore it. It's really up to you. You can do whatever you want to do. You understand? Okay. Type 2. Many museums charge for admission while others are free. Do you think the advantages of this outweigh the disadvantages? That's an opinion essay. You may ask me, what's the difference between this opinion essay and the one that I explained to you in the previous lecture? I'll tell you. In the previous lecture, when they asked you to mention your opinion, you only can focus on one side, right? But here, you're supposed to illustrate the advantages and the disadvantages and explain what you think is the stronger side. I'm going to explain in details these differences for you right now. Okay, let's look at type 1, the structure of type 1, the discussion. The examiners are basically expecting 4 paragraphs: introduction, supporting paragraph 1 for the advantages, supporting paragraph 2 for the disadvantages, and then the conclusion in which you may or may not write your opinion. It's up to you. Let's take this analysis. In some countries, young people are encouraged to work or travel for a year between finishing high school and starting university studies. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages for young people who decide to do this. Okay, so introduction. What do you do in the introduction? Paraphrase the question and then write an outline sentence. Paraphrasing the question is a fixed step. In any type of questions, in any task 2, the first thing that you have to do is to paraphrase the question. When you're paraphrasing the question, you might also choose to write some attraction, and we explained how you could attract the attention of your reader before. But so attraction is optional, but paraphrasing the question is an essential step. This is the first thing that you do when you write your essay. And then you write an outline statement or an outline sentence, and we explained what this means. It's basically a summary of the information mentioned in the body paragraphs. Let's look at this example. Before embarking on college means starting. Some young people prefer to have a break from studying after graduating from high school. So this is the paraphrase of the question here, this sentence. Saving money for college tuition might be a reasonable justification. This sentence includes a summary of the advantages that will be illustrated in body paragraph 1, saving money for college tuition. However, young adults who opt for this choice risk losing motivation to study afterwards. This sentence is a summary of the disadvantages that will be illustrated in body paragraph 2, losing motivation. That's it. That's your introduction. 3 sentences, one in which you paraphrase the question, another one in which you summarize body paragraph 1, another one in which you summarize body paragraph 2. Okay. Supporting paragraph 1, advantages, topic sentence, explanation, example. This is really a fixed structure, topic sentence, explanation, example. In most of the body paragraphs that you write, this is what you do. Okay, I'm going to show you an example here, topic sentence. University education is very expensive, and lots of students decide to work for 12 months and save up money before they begin their studies. This allows them to pay for their living costs, tuition fees, and accommodation and focus on their studies rather than struggle financially or have to get a part-time job on top of their academic work. So you have the sentence here. This is actually the sentence. This is the topic sentence. They save up money before they begin their studies. That's your topic sentence. That's the explanation. Why? Why do they need to save up money? Because they have living costs, tuition, and accommodation. That's the reason. And then you have the example. For example, the New York Times recently reported that the average student at American universities requires over $12,000 annually just to survive. And many drop out because they cannot afford to stay. That's your example. So you have three components, as I said. You have the topic sentence, the explanation, and then finally the example. Okay. Supporting paragraph 2, what do? Topic sentence, explanation, example. It's the same. Despite these advantages, many students often get used to working or traveling and don't want to return to a life of study after a year of. They get used to working and then they feel like it's not important for me to return to a life of studying. This short-term view can cause some to bypass university altogether and go straight into a job that's beneath their capabilities or may not offer the same prospects their future career might have done. For instance, a recent survey by the British government found that 26% of students who take a gap year never enter tertiary education. Tertiary education means university education. And then what do you do in the conclusion? You could write your opinion or you could write a summary plus opinion. Your opinion is not essential. Yes, it's not essential, but it's highly recommended. You need to write your opinion here in order to avoid redundancy, in order to avoid repeating the same ideas. So in conclusion, taking a break from studies can be advantageous. Advantageous means useful if it allows learners to gather up savings. However, they should also be careful that it doesn't lead, if you have should, that means you're providing advice, that it doesn't lead to disillusionment. Disillusionment means losing interest with education altogether. Altogether means completely. So you have a bit of a summary plus a piece of advice. Okay, moving on to the second type, the opinion. Look at this example. Many museums charge for admission while others are free. Do you think the advantages of this outweigh the disadvantages? Okay. Introduction. Supporting paragraph 1, stronger side. Supporting paragraph 2, weaker side. And then finally you have the conclusion. The stronger side can be anything. It could be the advantages or the disadvantages depending on what you think. What do you do in the introduction? Paraphrase the question. As we agreed, this is a fixed step, right? A thesis statement. Now, this is the main difference between this type and the previous type. A thesis statement, as we explained before, is one in which you illustrate your opinion. What do you think? Because at the end of the day, this is an opinion essay. And then finally, you write an outline sentence, which, as we said, is a summary of the ideas illustrated in the body paragraphs. Let's look at this sample. Lots of museums charge a fee while others do not. That's the paraphrase. The benefits of charging, such as covering the operational costs of museums, do not outweigh the drawbacks because open access to culture and art is more important to the well-being of a nation than generating money. The benefits do not outweigh the drawbacks. This means that the drawbacks are more than the benefits. So the writer believes that it's not a good idea to charge people money. This here, until this part, from the benefits to this part, this is a summary of the thesis. This is the opinion sentence, all right? And from the word because, you have the outline sentence. Because you have the outline sentence. You can join them together. Please be careful. You don't have to write two separate sentences, one for the opinion and one for the outline. You can join them together. When you join using the word because, you create a complex sentence because, as we said before, because is a subordinator, subordinators create complex sentences. because open access to culture and art is more important to the well-being of a nation than generating money. Okay. Now, body paragraph 1, the stronger side, what do you do? You write a topic sentence, and then the first reason, and then explanation and example, and then the second reason, and then explanation and example. You need to do this. You have to have 2 reasons, because this is the side that you support. So you have to have more reasons than the other side, which you don't support. 2 reasons here, 1 reason there. Like this. The main disadvantage is that the high fees exclude a large proportion of the population. This is your topic sentence, and then you're going to provide examples of the people who will not be able to visit museums if they are forced to pay a fee. 2 types of people, so this way you have 2 reasons. The first point to consider in this regard is that many people in poorer countries have barely enough money for food and shelter. So you're talking about poor countries here. Exhibits are one of the few cultural activities they can enjoy free of charge. For example, Egypt has millions of people living in poverty, but also a rich and ancient culture. And it is therefore important that everyone gets to experience these artifacts. We're using the words artifacts and exhibits to talk about the items on display inside the museum. Of course, having a wide range of vocabulary is important here. Another downside. So in the first side, we talked about poor people who don't have enough money to pay the museum tickets. Okay. The other downside is that students and children who are learning about the world may not be able to visit. It would be a huge shame if art students couldn't see their favorite painters or sculptors' work in real life because their finances, money, could not cover the cost of entrance. In this situation, we're not talking about poor countries. We're talking about students who live in rich countries. Even if you're a student and you live in a rich country, like in America, for example, you may not be able to afford to pay a lot of money for a museum ticket, unless the museum gives you a discount or something like that. Okay, body paragraph 2, this is the weak side. Topic sentence including 1 point. You're not going to mention 2 points like the previous paragraph. Is going to be 1 point only. Explanation, and then this item is important. The reason why you disagree with this point, why you think it's a weak point. It's not enough for you to mention 1 item that you disagree with, and then you don't mention what you think about that. Because this item will necessarily contradict your own opinion. So you need to find a way to overcome this weakness. This way your essay can be convincing, but you cannot just give me an opinion which contradicts your opinion and say, that's it, I don't care. No, you have to find an explanation for that. I'm gonna help you understand what I'm trying to say here. As you can see in this part, this is sample body paragraph 2. Despite this, there are some who believe that museums are unsustainable without the money they might get from ticket sales. It's important to start with any expression like that. Despite this, however, on the other hand, in contrast, anything like that, because this paragraph has contradictory information to what was mentioned before. So it's important to use the right linking words here in this situation. There are some who believe that museums are unsustainable, cannot be sustained, cannot operate for a long time without the money they might get from ticket sales. That's your topic sentence here. They claim that this allows the building to remain open and is better that some people get to experience it rather than not at all. This is the explanation, that we need some money in order to be able to pay the operational expenses, and it's better to allow some people to visit the museums than allowing nobody to visit the museums when they shut down because there is no money to maintain them anymore. You cannot stop at this part. You cannot write this paragraph and assume that you don't have to do anything else. No, you have to contradict this information because this opinion here is the opposite of the opinion that you wrote in the previous paragraph. In the previous paragraph, you were trying to say that if you force people to pay tickets, you are going to prevent so many people from entering the museums. Now here you're saying that you should force people to pay tickets. So you have to provide a counter argument in this part. This is so important. And usually you start like that. To this, I would say you're disagreeing with this information. You are disagreeing. So in this part, you are disagreeing with the information mentioned here. That the government should step in and cover the cost because culture is as important as anything else it spends money on. So you're saying that if you need money, get the money from the government, not from the people. For instance, in the UK, there have been huge government spending cuts over the last few years, but the museums have not had their funding reduced because of their importance to the country's cultural heritage. Okay. Finally, the conclusion, you could have a summary plus advice or just advice. In conclusion, although some might say that places of culture should be run like a business, this is the summary of body paragraph 1, the cost to the education and heritage of the country is too great. That's the summary of body paragraph. I'm sorry, this is the opinion that you disagree with. So this is the summary of body paragraph 2 here. That's body paragraph 2 actually. And that's body paragraph 1, because that's the opinion that you support, is too great. And they should remain free to all. That's the piece of advice here in the conclusion. Okay. Your homework is this part. Some experts believe that it's better for children to begin learning a foreign language at primary school rather than secondary school. Do the advantages of this outweigh the disadvantages? Okay. So you're supposed to write an essay about that. This is your assignment for this time, but let me know first. What type is this? Is this an opinion type or a discussion type? Okay, it's an opinion type. Do the advantages of this outweigh disadvantages? You have to make a decision. This is not a discussion. I'm asking you to decide which is more, the advantages or disadvantages. So this task is advantages and disadvantages opinion, not discussion. Okay, write it, give it to me, and I'm going to give you feedback. I'm going to indicate all the mistakes for you in order for you to be able to improve the quality of your writing. Thank you. I hope this video was useful, and I'm going to see you in the next video, inshallah. Have a nice time. Assalamu alaikum.